DCS currently in there right now. And then it also has my missions. This is where I start. That's my first place, second place, third place, fourth place, fifth place, sixth place, seventh place, so forth and so on. Then now there's different airports. Tbilisi is the one that I'm at right now. It just so happens to be that one, and it's also number 51 in the list. 52, and you can see that one is 391 miles to Anapa. So we zoom all the way out. We're like, well, where the hell's Anapa? And we grab this thing and we come up here and holy shit, it's 391 miles to Anapa. That would be a long flight. Just just boring if you were just flying from here to Anapa. Now, if you're doing it IMC, that could be more interesting because you're trying to navigate based on all your instruments, and that's a much busier situation. But just cruising, you would just point at Anapa and set the autopilot and then go make toast or eat ice cream or whatever else you feel like eating or doing. You get hammered and then try and land at Anapa. I don't know. You do you. That's going to cover everything over here. That's all set. CMS set. Developing a flow is a very good thing for you to do in terms of your startup procedure. Um, Mine generally allows me to have everything set and done the way I want it by the 4-minute mark when the alignment is complete. And that's really your restraining factor in how fast you can get off the ground and be combat effective in the A10C is 4 minutes from the time you're in the cockpit until the time you're rolling. If for some reason you start a match and this is not loaded, I get the battery stuff going, I get the APU going, I start the generator, and it's going to beep at me. And I shut off the beeper, the master caution, and then I turn these two switches on as well. And as soon as I have done that, and before the APU is even finished starting, then I hit /81 or F8F1, and I come in here and start configuring my stores for whatever the mission calls for. Because if you spawn into, say, 104th server, you spawn with no weapons and generally 100% fuel, and it takes time to pull the extra fuel out and put the weapons on. But it also takes time to align, so I try and overlap both of those times as much as I can. So the fastest is to get power to your systems running as quickly as possible, and then start the refuel process. So I get all that stuff going, and then in the meantime, the APU finishes starting, the generator cuts in, and as soon as the generator cuts in, these two switches are already powered, so this immediately begins getting power. As a disclaimer, if this was an actual A10, that would probably be a really bad idea, because when the generator cuts in, there's probably going to be a surge in the power, and it could fry some of your systems if you have them activated when when the generator cuts on. If there's systems activated, it might surge, so you could blow something out. I'm guessing that's why there's a much longer startup procedure involved, but because this is a simulation, that's just a little shortcut that I use to cut my times down to like 4 minutes and 15 seconds to roll. Obviously, it's a fairly involved 4 minutes, combining all of your slew information and your your netcode information, getting everything else set, remembering to start your engines at 2.5 minutes elapsed, and getting everything else configured. And if you get everything set on the ground, usually by the time you take off, you can have your Mavericks cooled down. And if there was an enemy, say in blue flag, something happened where there was this airport here, well, there's another airport like right over there. I don't remember where specifically it is, but it's just right next door. Well, Red 4 took that, and Blue 4 had to try and go kill it. So we were taking off, I think, the next airport back. I don't remember the name right now. I'll just look it up. We were departing Vaziani and had to try and take Soganlug, which means... no, I didn't, Primus. That's good. I should probably throw autolays in there. We were trying to get off from here to here, and you need to be combat effective when your wheel's up because you're already in range of everything here. So having everything set in 4 minutes means that you could get set quickly and get in the air, and hopefully there weren't too many fighters trying to shoot you down, that you could make some progress on Soganlug until enough things were killed, and then we could do that. It's one nice thing about the dynamic campaign that 373rd was running, the blue flag campaign. was just how incredibly involved it was and what a team effort it was. That's one thing that a lot of this has been missing is the team spirit. Like, yeah, we all have to work together. Blue Flag has that. Okay, and Primus brought up autolays. We're going to do that real quick. On the dismiss page, I want my GBU12 to autolays. I'm going to go to Inventory, GBU12, disregard. I'm going back to the dismiss page, starting over. I go to GBU12, and I hit Profile, and this all pops up right here. And then I click Change Setting. Oh, I also switch mode to CCRP. That's two different bombing styles. I like CCRP for precision guided stuff and CCIP for standard dumb bombs. I don't see a reason why one would not work for either, but it just the way that the bombs come off the rail, it works one way better than another, in my opinion. So let's go back. I highlight the store that I want to change or set autolays for, or the stores. If I had a ton of GBU12s, I could select them all and then select Profile. I want a single bomb to drop. I can select single, ripple, all that stuff. This is the fusing adjustments. Like I said, I have had bad luck trying to figure out the fusing to get everything to work right. I need to play with it and learn a lot more about that before I try and share any info on that. There may be someone else out there who's much better at it, and if that's the case, they should speak up and let me know because I want to learn. The mode, like I said, and then the change settings function right here. So now I've got all these little things. If I want the bomb to fall from the wing to the ground for a certain amount of time, I set desired time of flight. And then the jet tries to tell me how high
Colt?
I have to fly. Send it.
For the nose to tail, is that what you were asking about?
Yeah, I've had bad luck with that stuff.
Okay, nose drops a slick bomb, and the other two, like nose, tail, and tail, will drop with the what's it called, the parachute, and
Okay.
thus, like the nose drop will drop a lot further from the target,
So you're
and
talking for
tail.
Mark 82 airs with the high drag config.
Well, I believe GBU12s has that too.
12s have a balut?
I believe I might be.
I wasn't aware of that. Now I kind of want to look into it, but
Yeah,
we'll call that a different rabbit hole.
yeah.
Thanks, man. You can set a minimum altitude that you want to drop from. So if you're diving and you can't get it
I
lined
might
up
be
in
no,
time,
I might be thinking of the 38.
that could be. A lays time, that has to do with auto lays. So if we want to set auto lays to on, which means that the TGP is automatically going to run the laser for you, so you don't have to worry about it or forget or anything like that, you set a time between 10 and 20 seconds. I like 15. I try and drop most of my GBU12s from between 10 and 12,000 feet, mostly just because it gives the bomb a chance to stabilize before it's terminal. You know, it hasn't picked up a ton of speed, and it gives it a chance to just kind of free fall a little bit and catch its bearings and stabilize, and then the laser cuts in and directs it. I get a lot better consistency when I'm dropping from higher altitudes with the GBU12s. Let's see, I want 15 seconds. So I put 15 on the scratch pad, and I put 15 under lays time. I also need to tell it, yes, I do want you to auto lays, because otherwise lays time doesn't mean anything. If it's not going to turn on, it doesn't matter. So I come over here and I cycle auto lays to on. Right and up are some adjustments for bomb location impact points. So if I were dropping dumb bombs, I think that would have a much bigger bearing on that than this weapon profile, because this is going to be terminally guided by the laser anyway. It could also have an effect on GBU-38s by adjusting easting and northing impact. So if you put the cursor on your TGP on a spot on the ground and tell it to bomb that, and then it bombs 10 meters away from that to the northeast, you could do -7 and -7 on right and up, and that should correct your next bomb onto that location. I don't know why it would have an error like that, but I believe my understanding is that's how it's modeled here. Eject has no function for this that I'm aware of except to disregard. It does. You can set an ejection velocity on here. So there's little charges in each of these pylons that for the bombs specifically, which let's see if I can get a better view. For the bomb specifically, when the little lugs that hold the bomb in there are done, there's little pucks that push down and put tension on them. Good to know, Primus. What was I saying? There's little charges like shotgun shells that don't have any shot in them. It's like a blank. And you use the blank and it pressurizes the system and it can kick things off the rail harder than them just falling off. I'm not covering weather data today, Draco. Let's see here. So we've got lays time and we have auto lays on. So when I go to drop the GBU 12, it's going to auto lays for me later on. And I'm going to verify now that I've got all this stuff set up. 1345. That's set to scan for there. Okay. And before I was talking about pressure and steering, and man, I've been scatterbrained today. On the right front of the stick here, or sorry, not the right front of the stick, this little pinky switch down here, this little button, that's your lasing button, but it is also your nose wheel steering activation button, and it is also your air-to-air refueling disconnect button. So we're just going to worry about the nose wheel steering for now. When I push that button on my Warthog, or whatever the keybind is for it, that little light's going to illuminate, and that's how I know that this nose wheel is going to get hydraulic pressure to turn. You can see some lines running to the module there, and it rotates that, and that's how I steer on the ground. If I turn it off, you can see the rudders in the background over here doing their thing, but the nose wheel's just chilling out. It's not turning anymore. So if you're on the ground and you're trying to go slow, so anything under 50 knots, you should definitely be using the nose wheel steering. Just be mindful that if you have the rudder input in for crosswind correction, and then you hit the nose wheel steering, it's going to throw you to the right really hard. It's going to happen very quickly because it's got a lot of turn authority. All right, so we are all started. Everything's good, and I'm kind of bored of sitting on the ground. I'm guessing you guys are too. Are most of you guys who are in the match also in here listening?
I think it's just you and I.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to taxi out and depart to the north now.
Roger.
All right. Throttles up a little bit, eases forward, and I'm using rudder to steer now. I'm guessing, since most of you guys are here for Learning Sim, you know that the rudders is what you use to steer on the ground, but I'll just point that out just because. I'm taxiing toward the southeast into the runway for a north departure, and then I'm going to depart downwind on the other side. I can use that coolie hat switch to cycle these things however I want. That's been on, geez, I've been talking a long time. Holy cow, guys. Get those things realigning. That is pretty on a Baru, Jayhawk. This little button right here is called the master mode control button, and that's going to cycle my information on the HUD, the mode for the HUD. So obviously now I'm in nav mode because nav was the last thing displayed. Steam Whistler, I'm going to try and get to some of that. Hopefully Primus can help me out when we get in the air, but that's going to be a little bit better once we're established in the air to deal with data sharing or information sharing. And I'm just going to do a shotgun takeoff here. I'm going to verify flap set 1 notch. That's full. That's half. That's 1 notch. And cruising, cruising, cruising. And nose wheel steering off about 100 because otherwise it's really touchy. So now I'm doing left and right with the rudders only. And rotating, I'm pulling back on the stick. Easy. As it starts to come up, I relax the pressure on the
User
stick.
joined your channel.
And it takes less pull as you continue to build speed. I hit my landing gear, which I have bound to this button right here. I have bound to my landing gear. So I hit it, and the gear comes up, and that warning goes off. I bound that button right there. There's a little flappy paddle on your Thrustmaster Warthog if you own one, and that's the flappy paddle that I use to put it on. And I'm going to make a left turn here. I put these lights. Okay, they're still good. They're still on. Still flashing. Let's see. I think I covered the anti-lock brakes and also the landing lights. If you're in a busy server, please use your landing lights. I realize how asinine it seems to use that stuff during the day, but it has saved me many times. I think it's saved me many times to have those on because not having those on when you're rolling down the runway could be occupied and people might not notice. So yeah, it's definitely asinine to run all the lights on during the day, but it could save you a lot of heartache and headache with restarting a jet and someone else having to restart a jet. Obviously, it's 4.5 more minutes out of their day to have to restart again after they just got started and tried to take off because someone collided with them on the runway or the taxiway. Put your lights on, make yourself easy to see. Once you're airborne, you can cut them out. And that's, again, that little pinky switch over there. You can switch it to the middle, and they go away. If you turn them back on, you'll notice that the strobes aren't flashing anymore. And you have to recycle that switch back to the on position anytime you hit the combat lighting position. Okay, I'm going to set my HUD as sensor of interest with the coolie hat. This little guy down here, I'm going to flip him up. And that sets that. And now I'm using DMS, that guy there, up and down. I'm using that to try and find my first waypoint. Now the HUD is telling me to steer this direction. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'll fly this direction. 20 degrees left, 10 degrees left, 10 miles now, 0 degrees. So now I have my information down here. Mission waypoint 1 is 9.9 nautical miles. I am 1 minute and 58 seconds from it, counting down, and I'm going to arrive at 13:29. I believe that's an arrival time. Let me confirm that. No, that is not an arrival time. That is a mirror for your clock. So this down here is just a mirror for what your clock information shows here. I apologize for doing that. Let's see. I'm going to go to my dismiss, and I'm going to confirm I want to use a GBU 38 this time. And it is now in CCRP mode. So it's constantly calculated release point instead of constantly calculated impact point, which is what CCIP is. The goal here is to put the center of this little dot right there on that line. That's going to give you your most accurate drop. When you get in range, and we're not actually going to bomb this target, when you get in range, those 2 carrots are going to show up. Those carrots represent the farthest and closest points of the launch envelope that you can drop from. And you'll see those are kind of counting up as we get closer. And then also, there's 2 rings on this thing. Well, when one of the rings counts down and the little hash mark on the side gets between those carrots, that's when it's safe to drop a GPU guided or a GPS, excuse me, guided bomb. So I'm flying along, I'm watching this puppy, and it's doing its thing, and then oh, it's counting down that inside ring. So right there is the halfway point. That would have been the perfect place to drop that GBU 38. And those all constantly calculate based on attitude, altitude, heading, etc. So now that I'm pointed nose down, you'll see that those carrots moved, and I'm getting closer, and now I'm really too close for this bomb to figure itself out. So everything went away. And now I'm going to waypoint 2, which is 50 degrees to the right, and it's 16 miles. And so I turn and turn and turn and turn and turn. And one thing a lot of people
hot marking.
And if you're having trouble seeing your HUD, I think someone mentioned something about color. You can change to night HUD mode, and that changes it to this. It's much more visible in your NVGs, which I'm not going to show now because they'll just be washed out. But if I want my TGP to look at the thing that I'm telling the computer to look at right now, I would set that as my sensor of interest, and then select this, and then do China hat forward long. Bam. And hey, this thing slewed around. I'll zero it back to straight ahead, and now it snaps down, and now it's looking at something. You can see that this puppy is locked to whatever I was looking at. So let's zoom in and try and see what's over here. And I'm not seeing a whole lot of stuff over here. Well, we're going to go ahead and bomb this little chunk of the river because America. That seems like a good reason, right? There's an insurgent planting an IED right here. Thank you. Now, because I have moved this point, I'm going to set
Pickle.
this. Copy pickle. I'm going to set this as my, let's see, it's my sensor of interest. I'm going to set it as my, fuck. I'm having a brain fart on the terminology. Basically, I'm telling, hey, look here, and then also pay attention to here. So it's DMS up short to enter point mode and DMS up long, or sorry, not DMS, TMS, this one. Up short to cycle between point and area modes. There's short on that TMS again. And then long to confirm that that's what I want it to look at. So now this line is basing itself off of that new point. And if I move this point on the TGP, that line will jump around left and right too. So we're going to bomb this terrorist right here. And we're going to cruise on in. We're going to keep going, and we're at happy and fat at 9,200 feet with our lights off because it's combat time. And we're waiting and we're waiting, and this point right here, this GPS info, Mike 57024083115, that's where this bomb is going to hit. And I would pickle, but I've just realized that I have another waypoint I want to bomb later, so I'm going to leave it. Sensor of primary interest. Yeah, mark points. Mark points are good. If you have spotted something, okay, there's a terrorist right here. You can't see him, but I can see him, and he's right there. So let's drop a mark point on this guy. Well, I'm going to come right over here and hit my TMS right. And when I do that, it drops a mark point. And I can see it's a mark point because it's going to show up as a letter on this icon. It's A. A is my new mark point. Oh, hey, we've got someone's locked me up. You can see his little indicator is following me around there. So I've got a mark point on that now. And if anything happens, I can come back to it. If I want to show only mark points, like say now I want to use the map to draw a mark point under him, I drop one right there where he was, and it drops it where the cursor was. Because now there's green boxes around it, that's what everything is contextual off of. Anything I do on here or here, that's all contextual. So now I've got a mark point, but I want to see A again. I can come over here and hit this rotary, and it goes into mark point mode. All those other waypoints vanish, and I can only see my mark points. This can be especially handy if I have spotted a whole bunch of things from 30 miles away, and when I get inside 10 miles, I want to shoot a bunch of Mavericks really quick or drop a bunch of GBUs in one pass. By the way, dropping a bunch of GPS-guided bombs in one pass is not good on vehicles, because when the first bomb goes off, the vehicles move out of the way, and the bombs keep going where they were told to go. If there's a bunch of stationary items, those are good candidates for GBU-38s. Anything that moves, you should just drop one at a time with a GBU-12. Um, there's really no other good way to go about that without using missiles, because they have active seeker heads. If I want to get back to my waypoint navigation, I can just go back to mission, and I want to set my HUD as soy again with coolie hat up, and then I cycle my DMS up short, and now it's telling me where waypoint 3 is, and I can fly out this way. And it's 120 degrees out this way. So I flew a little too far here. It's 11 miles away. 50 degrees, 40 degrees, 30 degrees, 20 degrees. That's what that countdown is for. 10 degrees. It's close, and there it is. And it's also telling me, hey, you are 10 miles from it. But it's this number is not telling me 10 miles because I have not set the HUD as soy. So I do TMS up short, TMS up long, TMS down. And I never have good luck with this. Cool. Well, I'm giving information that I don't know how to relate. So we'll just go with that. And it's flying me to 2. Oh, that's mission 2, that's why. Doing here. Now I'm all turned around, guys. I'm sorry. So this is waypoint 2, and there's waypoint 3 is behind me, and I'm getting a 180 indication, so that's why. It's amusing. I'm working on my instrument rating right now, and the FAA has indicated on one of their written test answers that complicated or advanced avionics do more to add difficulty to a flight than they do to alleviate it. Just because of things like that. If you don't know exactly what you're doing at all times, you can be like, well, why is it showing me this? That's not what I told it to show. Okay. So, who's hot micing?
Kidnap, there's something wrong with your mic, man. You might want to mute.
Yeah. Yeah, you're hot micing pretty hard, Kidnap. Yeah, stuck mic. So now I'm navigating to waypoint 3. An alternative way to know that I'm navigating to waypoint 3 is right here. I have my arrows pointing directly towards it. This is a heading bug. This is a navigation indicator. This is a range. This can be based off of TACAN information, or in this case, EG information. So all of my computer inputs are telling EG where I want to go, and EG is telling me that I need to turn this way. This is the course selector, and it's adjustable. So the closer I put that to 0, the closer it gets. Alternatively, I know I'm getting close. I'm now within 2 miles because it's inside here. Now I'm 1 mile away. And as this bar crosses, that should say 1, really. Now I can push waypoint 4, and that's 120 degrees, and it's a right turn. So I'll bring it around. And if I want to fly directly towards it and know that I'm on course, I set that right for it. And then I fly in a way that keeps this line centered. So I'm going to turn a little past it and fly along. And that line's going to come back in and get centered again over a little bit of time. Scrog, you don't have to do all this to just get in the air and fly the A-10, but being able to usefully employ the A-10 in a hot server setting with a lot of people trying to shoot you down and ground AI trying to shoot you down, That's when it really pays off to know all the other little details. I'm going to arm the gun, and you'll notice the aircraft pitches forward when I do that as the precision attitude control, which was elaborated on earlier, um, kicks in. Elaborated in chat. Um, Oz is the one. I was having a brain fart there. Oz is the one who's elaborating on all that stuff. He knows all about all that stuff. And I'm going to go back to CCRP mode because I switched it to nav to unclutter the HUD there. I'm going to sit up straight in my chair because I've been here for a while. And flying along, herdy-der. Oh yeah, I'm in program Charlie. If I push CMS forward, that's this little thing right here, countermeasure switch forward, little gray button, left and right, changes that, left and right, left, left, right, 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 left, left. Easy enough. Program Charlie is going to do this. So if there was a whole bunch of infrared SAMs flying up at me, they'd be like, oh, sweet burning magnesium and whatever other metals are flying out. I want to go chase those. And so that's what they would do. All right, those are all set. Laser arm is now set. I'm still looking good on fuel. I have 4,800 pounds fuel remaining. Copy pickle. And I'm going to cheat and advance to mission. Oh, someone's already bombing position 7. Well, that's okay. I set that and I scroll to troops, and then I can come back here.
Interrogative. Are we bombing the target at waypoint 4?
Waypoint 4 is just an NDB. You can bomb it if you want to. It doesn't really matter. It's all just basically a sandbox kind of environment for people to practice things. Pickle is
Well, in that
something we
case,
say when
rifle.
we're dropping bomb. Yeah, bomb's released. Copy rifle. All right, so my missile warning system, my missile launch is indicating that there's a missile in the air, and it'll keep doing that until that missile stops burning and it can't see it anymore, which it just did. And that system is based on this little camera here on the back end. You can see it looking back, and then there's a camera on the wingtip there. So those cameras are always looking for missile plumes, but you'll notice there's no cameras on the bottom or on the top. They can only see out kind of like in this range and this range. They can only see, like this far down and say this far up or so. So if anyone's directly above you or below you when they shoot, you're not going to see it.
Ready, pre-contact.
Steam Whistler, you can laze for other aircraft. Buddy lazing is a thing. Someone's refueling. Awesome. I'm glad that you guys are making use of this stuff. So I'm running in, and I'm still trying to use my GBU-38. If I set hit coolie hat up again, and set my HUD as the soy, if I use the DMS switch left and right, it's going to change my weapon's profile and automatically select that weapon as the active one. So if I had an entire, if all of these that could hold GBU-38s were GBU-38s, and I activated the GBU-38 profile, it would activate all of those weapons pylons simultaneously. And so all I would have to do is pick a target and hit the pickle button, and then pick a new target and hit the pickle button. And those bombs, because they are internally self-guided, are just going to fly to whatever point I told them to fly to and blow it up, as long as I drop them within parameters. Because I don't have to have the bomb pointed right on that line when I drop it. Also, I don't have to drop it right on the first carrot or right on the last carrot. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so we had troops in the open located here, and it looks like they have run off or died. Somebody has been killing our other trucks. Let's set this as our target. Let's bomb this guy. So my target marker, my drop indicator is already between the carrots. So pickle, I held down this button right here, kept it held for a second, bomb came off the pylon, The bomb is now falling away. And if I look closely, I might... you can see it falling, but I can't see it this time. I'm going to reduce my power. I'm going to deploy my speed brakes, just so I don't overspeed the aircraft in this dive. I'm already doing 340 knots. Bring the nose back up a little bit. I know that my target was on the north side of the smoking one, so it should be that guy right there. And yep, bomb hit right where he landed. Now, if we were in a combat server, most of these other trucks would be like, oh shit, things are exploding, and they would drive like 30 or 40 meters from where they were. And that's why you don't want to drop a whole bunch of GBU 38s or other GPS guided bombs.
Speed brake.
I forgot to put my speed brake in and my throttles back to full. Bleeding off a lot of speed. See, now I'm back down to 120 knots. If you exceed 200 knots, your flaps will retract. When you get back below 200 knots, they will automatically extend as long as you have your flap selector switch left in maneuver or down. You can manually raise them all the way back up or extend them all the way down below 200 knots. But at the 200 knot increment, they will automatically be retracted and then extended when you go slower again. I like the CCIP gun cross when I'm gunning. There is a guns mode, but it has this big pipper that's hard to see. I like this little one. And I squeeze the trigger and send some vert out. Then I gently pull out. Because if you pull out too abruptly, the wings will snap, especially in a dive with that much speed. And then outbound targets that are actually a threat, you keep a juke going, which means you keep doing three-dimensional turns every couple seconds so that they can't get a good bead on your next location. You don't want to just like turn directly into them, because if you just turn like this straight in the plane that they're in, they'll shoot you. You need to be off vector a little bit. So whatever lead that they would have, you always want to be interrupting that by turning a little bit more. You don't want to just pull in one direction for a long time, because they'll account for that too. You've got to kick it around and turn and do all that stuff. Okay. I'm now telling my TGP to recenter, and that little diamond shows me where the TGP is looking. And if I move the cursor right when it goes past something, I can have it stick to the ground right there. So now the cursor is watching that spot on the ground right next to the truck. And as long as I don't fly crazy on the way outbound, it'll keep looking at that spot, because it's the INS is telling the camera where it is from me. And it's just always going to look at that. Even if it can't see the ground, like right now it's looking at the missiles next to it. Like that's the fin of that missile right there. It's still looking in that general direction. Now if the truck is moving and I had it set to point, it'll stop following the moving truck because it can't see it anymore, and then it'll just stick to the ground wherever it was last at. So if something's moving and you're using the point method of viewing rather than area, it gets a little box there and it highlights that. Something else that's good to know, your gain and your levels can be adjusted to change the way the targets in the background interact. So I'm going to turn a little bit here. I'll do that stuff in a second. This little dot shows you which direction it is as an o'clock position from you. So the farther out it is, the closer it is to perpendicular or level with the plane of your aircraft. So the dot is all the way by the outside, which means that it is basically straight off my wingtip in terms of elevation, or maybe even a little above in this case. If I roll the jet this way, now the TGP is kind of looking down, which means that to see the target, I've got to look down. So that's a good way to know where your TGP is looking, and figure that out. Okay, I'm going to set my HUD as my soy, and then use my DMS key left, and that selected my GBU12 profile and store. And now it says use CCRP, so I hit my master mode control button, and I hit it again, and I hit it again, and now I'm in CCRP mode. And this is the better mode, in my opinion, for dropping this bomb. And now I've got a countdown this time. And so I'm going to get this close here and pickle. So now the bomb is trying to drop right where that point is. And the bomb's going to fall, and now it's below 15 seconds, so it should be lasing, which it is not. And now I'm going to laze for it. I don't know why the auto laze didn't function. I didn't get a failure, it just said not lasing. And I don't know where my bomb went. Well, somehow I screwed something up there. And that's what makes the A10 hard, because if you don't have all your ducks in a row, what you're doing will wind up blowing up a school full of children or something like that. And that's the case with any PGM. There's a ton of controls that go into an actual precision guided munition strike because they have the opportunity to be that set. Bye, GBU. All right, so now I'll hit it with a Maverick. So I can manually select that from my dismiss page. Let's see, what is my primary target? Oh, maybe that's why I screwed it up. I'm trying to hit something over here, not over here. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to hit up long on TMS. That's this one right here. I push it up and hold it, and now when I look over here, now that little castle is underneath the diamond. The diamond is where my TGP is looking. The castle, or the wedding cake, whatever you want to call it, that has to do with what the stores think is that what I want them to kill. So my GBU was dropped for point Z there, Z, and being an asshole, I'm going to set that for TGP. Being an asshole, I did not ever set my sensor of interest to the TGP. Or, sorry, my SPI, my sensor of primary interest. So there's the sensor of interest and the sensor of primary interest. Correct me if I'm fucking that up. Okay, so now I've had China Hat forward long, and that slewed my Maverick cursor to this. And I tap it forward short, and it zooms in, and I say, hey, there's something in the crosshairs. And I tap TMS up short on the stick, and it locks, and it's flashing, and then I hit rifle. I hit the pickle. It didn't have a whole lot of turn and do when it came off the rail, and now it's flying straight for that. Thank you for the follow. It's flying out, and it's got 10 seconds to impact, 9, 8, and then the flashing L means I'm lasing. I'm manually hitting the laser button on the stick, and then impact.
Pull up, pull up.
And guns.
Altitude, altitude.
And smooth
pull up.
pull. You want to load smoothly because if you jerk the stick back abruptly, it'll take a second to build up the G, and then suddenly it'll just snap. Sensor point of interest, so I did fuck that up. Sensor point of interest. The sensor point of, oh, there's the gimbal roll I was talking about. So there's two ways to correct this. One of them is to roll the aircraft. The other is to hit China Hat aft short and then reacquire the target. It's kind of a warning. So if I roll this way, now it should be happy. Now if I turn this way until it can see again, because it's trying to look at the bottom of the wing right now. Still looking at the wing. About now we should be able to see again. I said that is my soy, and then I confirm that that's on point, and I set that as my SPI. Now I'm getting my gimbal roll indication, so I roll back away from it. Now it's okay. It'll give you a little warning and says whichever way it's pointing, it says don't roll that way anymore, or I'm gonna lose it. So then you bring it in. Then you line it up. Your first stage of the trigger enables pack 1. It's right there.
Pull up.
The second one fires the gun and enables pack 2, which stabilizes the platform.
Altitude, altitude.
One thing that is important, in my opinion, is very important to flying the A-10 pretty well, is the use of rudder to maintain coordinated flight, which in a no-wind environment means that the total velocity vector is always generally aligned vertically with your gun cross, that little tiny plus sign there. If it's offset to the left or to the right a whole bunch, it's not
Altitude,
coordinated flight.
altitude.
And the other way to verify that is with the actual turn coordination symbol, that little ball there between the lines. That indicates the quality of your turn, whether it is coordinated or not. If I just roll the aircraft without pushing any rudder down one way or the other, that ball skews off to either side, and that's not coordinated. That has to do with adverse yaw, and that's, again, a big rabbit hole to get down. But the moral of the story is, as you go to roll left, feed in some left rudder. And it should just take a little bit, and then you can stabilize and work it back and forth. Keep that beautifully centered. If I don't put any in, you'll see it skids off to one side. And as I go to pull back on the stick, it starts to roll, and then it also starts to spin. Or, sorry, roll. It stall, not roll, stall, which is a disruption of airflow over the wing causing a loss of lift. The actual definition is exceeding the critical angle of attack, and that is a rabbit hole. But essentially, if that's centered, and I pull this back, it should just kind of like start wallowing through the air the same way that it was for at least a couple seconds. And if it's not, if I've got it way off to the side and I pull, you'll see it'll kind of like whip to the right a little bit. It's not happy. And I don't know why it's behaving the way that it is. I don't think I've really tried to stall this since the last patch, but it's not how I would expect the aircraft to handle in a stall. Obviously, I'm not an A-10 pilot, so my opinion is pretty much moot. But it is what it is. Having the sensor slew that I was talking about earlier going fast means that I can actually slew this sensor around while I'm flying and not lose my mind. And see, this gimbal roll keeps popping in when I bank left, so I'm going to do one more roll to the right. And now when I bank left, it should be a lot happier. So, I think this is pretty close to concluding the objective for tonight's Learning Sim Sunday. If there were topics that I didn't cover or didn't cover in depth enough and you were hoping to learn more, please let me know and I'll try and study up and actually speak with a little bit of knowledge on those topics. Like I said, I just covered a lot of the basics, the stuff that I use when I'm trying to
Colt?
employ the A-10. Go ahead.
Would you like to show him missile evasion?
Sure.
I'm a little close to you.
I see that.
Yeah. How do you want to do that?
Continue outbound that heading and I'll offset to your left a little bit here.
Or if you want, you could show him locking up with a sidewinder and shoot me down.
Oh, that would be good. That would be good. I'll go ahead and demonstrate the air-to-air mode.
Yeah, that'd be better.
Cool. Alrighty. So if you find yourself in a position where you need to shoot somebody down, you only have heat or infrared missiles available. Here's Primus again. Pulling some power. Do you have your power in or out? What's your airspeed?
221 climbing.
Copy that. Thanks. All right. I just wanted to have a rough idea of how fast he was going so I could talk through this before I was out of missile range. So he's flying away from me, which means I'm going to have a really good aspect for a heater shot.
I'm holding an 80% fan.
Understood. Thank you kindly. There is an air-to-air mode on the HUD, or the TGP. It is a royal pain to use, but if you can identify something far enough away, it'll lock it up and then stay slave to it. So it'll just kind of do whatever it can or needs to in order to be slaved. And so then you do not have to have your sidewinders on bore sight. I can set this as my sensor of interest and hold that up long and then slave the sensor pod. And now that little cursor jumped off the bore sight and it's pointing up here, and now it means I've got tone. If I want to recage that sensor, I hit TMS down. Or, excuse me, China hat aft. don't know who was shooting what there. Oh, okay. Shooting at the ground. Yeah, that was a false alarm. Someone behind us was firing. So I see his shadow. I don't see him yet. There he is. So if I just want to use bore sight mode because I'm fighting visually and don't have time to worry about where my...
You still got me though, right?
Yeah, I'm visual. About a mile trail, mile and a half. Okay, I set coolie hat up short for my HUD as soy, sensor of interest. And then TMS down, just to verify everything's happy. Then TMS up short sets it to seeker mode. If it comes across something, it'll lock up and maintain lock. As soon as it's grabbed something, it'll just stay there. If I hit down, it comes back to home, and up returns to search. And I guess I could try some air-to-air refueling, but I also don't want to make too much of an ass of myself. Okay. Are you set in the right mode?
What's up?
Are you set in the right mode?
To defend?
Yes, sir.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So he's all locked up. I've got good tone. I'm going to use the pickle button on the stick to fire. I press and hold. Missile comes off the rail. Fire. And he's popping a ton of flares, and the missile went stupid and flew out of the way. I've got one more left, so I do this, and I set it back to search. I hit down once, and then up once, and now it's searching, and now it's locked, and then I fire, and it's Fox 2, and he's not defending, and it strikes. Thank you for your sacrifice, sir. Your loss shall not be in vain.
For science.
Bye, Primus! Alright, so now I don't have a circle anymore, because I don't have that back. I can set this as sensor of interest, if it's not already, and then left or right on my data management switch. Left or right cycles between the different profiles, which we configured at the very beginning when we were setting everything up. So if I was fighting an A-10, I could use this gun funnel. The theory here is you get in plane with his wings in coordinated flight, and then wherever his wingtips touch the funnel, that's where you're led to fire. Cycling the master mode control button will pull you back out of air-to-air mode to nav mode, and go from there. You can do a gun run near these guys. This should be far enough not to cause any damage to him.
Pull up. Altitude.
So especially if you're rolling and pulling abruptly, you want to have the rudder in, because that'll help keep you coordinated as you go to make your juking maneuvers, and leading with heavy rudder in the direction of your turn will help you roll faster. You'll notice that I'm actually kind of, as I go to roll here, I'm going to kick the rudder down hard and then kind of release, and that's going to kick the nose to the right in the direction of the roll ahead of time. And then I just maintain coordinated turn here, and I can sustain a higher turn rate if I'm coordinated than if I'm not. Also pushing the stick, if I'm pulling like this and I want to change direction, I don't want to keep the stick sucked back because that's going to cause me to stall. But if I want to roll real fast, I bring the stick forward and then a little bit past, and I kick the rudder and the stick. Let me screen freeze. Easy does it. Get a little higher this time. Control enter. There. So there's the control inputs. I go back to air-to-air mode. I'm already in A10 mode. So if I was going to try and shoot him, it would have to be somewhere out here is the lead. That would wind up low, though. See, I'm just like right on the edge of air-to-air gun range. Oh, my bad, guys. I'm not actually paying attention to what the stream looks like. Let me edit scene. Actually, you just don't need to see my mug for a little while now. Get that out of the way. There we go. So you can kind of see through this little image here that I'm pushing the stick forward and bumping it full roll, and I'm also leading with a bunch of rudder. Not necessarily full, but a bunch. I'm also not maintaining coordinated there. Now I'm coordinated, and you'll see the turn rate pick up. Now when I reverse, I just have to stop the rotation that way. Obviously, if he's already got a gun solution, that's not the best bet because I'm going to stop right in front of his crosshairs and fly straight for a split second. But if I'm not right in his crosshairs and I want to reverse quickly, that's a good way to do it. Otherwise, keeping that stick back, feeding it a bunch of rudder, is a good way to bring the nose around while maintaining the pull. Don't lie to me, Johnny. I know you don't want to see the mug. Then we can shoot some of this DCS water, which they've made very beautiful.
Pull up. Pull up.
And bring it down low, and we'll shoot a little bit more. Here, Oof. That works a lot better when I'm hosting. Alright, we'll get that away. I think that just about covers everything. Weld said air-to-air refueling, so let's see if I can figure this out. Sorry, guys. Oh, I'm smurfing it up. Alright. Let's find 01 X-ray. Air-to-air. Receive mode. Make that volume up so I can hear it. Then enter TACAN navigation mode. And I'm going to turn towards the pointer.
Transfer complete. Disconnect.
Might be dead, actually. Let's try transmit receive. Huh. Wonder if that's a bug. We'll see. Nope, we're just going to see if I can wing it. I don't mind making an ass of myself if I fail. Almost willing to bet that this is my indication, right? Here. And it is indeed. So the EG will allow me to display, very good. Display in the HUD where this is all located. If I deselect it, it goes away. Otherwise, I'm just using this right here. I'm using the known elevation, and I'm looking at the wrong one. There we go. Disregard, those are two guys flying in formation. I'm gonna cheat. I've forgotten enough about TACAN now that I'm on the right spot. Who we got in here? We got Draco and... Well, there is a 135 there, it's just not showing up. Maybe the E-Plars isn't on. Maybe that's something I failed in the mission editor. They should be showing up on Link 16 unless I'm very mistaken. Guess we'll just use these A10s. Someone talked about trimming earlier. Trimming is pretty straightforward. The goal of trimming is to get the aircraft to stop turning and pitching. So I can configure this jet to maintain a turn like this without rolling back by adding a little bit of left roll trim. And I come back to the right until it's stabilized. Now I add a little pitch trim. Then I bring a little bit back down until it's stabilized. And now, relative to roll axis and pitch axis, it's stable. It's turning through the air, but the trim has stabilized it in this configuration. In smaller airplanes, a lot of the time all they have is pitch and maybe rudder. And really the pitch trim, the pitch trim is a way to apply power steering, because the faster you go, the more your elevators are trying to do, and the more you've got to fight all the other forces on the aircraft. And eventually, as you get faster, you'll find yourself pushing really hard on the controls, trying to keep it forward. And then you go, oh, there's a little power steering thing I can sit on here, and that'll take all the force away. And the goal then is your controls are still quite a ways forward. Yeah, nothing. That's not inherently wrong. I hope you guys don't mind if I butt in here, except one of you is going to have to cancel talking with them, I think. Do we have easy talking on? Let's find out. F5. No. 11, F6. Let's do F6. Texaco and Arco. Who's here? This is... Oh, come back. That is Texaco. And I want to talk to Texaco on... Making this really hard. I should just save these. 251. Okay. Well, I am on 251.
No whisper target found.
So I hit my UHF radio and I hit 251 and I say Texaco intent to refuel. And then I figure out where they went because I'm not paying attention.
Colt 1-1 Texaco, proceed to pre-contact at 10,000.
And I'm going to configure for fueling. And not fly so crazy. I don't think tankers would like this if I was flying this way. And I find this really hard in the A-10 as opposed to the F-15 because the boom is right in the way of what I'm trying to see. I'll show you here in a second. This would be a very bad place to be because there's going to be a lot of turbulence flying through there. It's going to be rough. Even here, I'm told there's a lot of turbulence, but... Okay, this is one of those times I want to trim for stabilization in a turn. And I should have had these things safed. And I say I'm ready pre-contact, and
Return pre-contact.
didn't like that very much. He didn't think I was ready.
No whisper target found.
Ready pre-contact. Return pre-contact.
I wonder if they didn't adjust this a little bit. I think if one of you guys is was trying to contact with him before, that you'll. Oh, hey lag. Hey, he's back. Yeah, if whoever was in this flight is probably going to have to cancel refueling because the boom.
Texaco, Hog 2-1, request rejoin.
Okay, so 2-1 is going to take fuel then. We'll watch someone
Hog
else.
2-1, Texaco, proceed to pre-contact at 10,000. Abort rejoin.
Hey, someone aborted. Thank you. Oh, Primus. Are things falling apart? No, unfortunately, nothing. They haven't modeled any types of turbulence, which I think that would suck. If that was you that tried to cancel like, then I don't think you were holding them up. Let me also try and cancel. Um,
Abort rejoin.
well, is our other KC still airborne? Let's see. Yeah, he's out there though at 8,000. So I need to fly
Texaco,
heading
Hog 2-4, request rejoin. Hog
75
2-4,
degrees.
Texaco,
Coming
proceed
around.
to pre-contact at 10,000. Abort rejoin.
He could be bugged. I don't know. Anything can happen. If you're talking about the drogue chute, no. They don't have a probe. They take it in the face hole. Right here. Right in the face hole. Right between the eyes. Oh, that's right. I was going to show parachute loom too. Let's do that real quick while we're heading out here. Turn the right way. And let's say I want to hit this thing. And it's like 6 miles out. And I set it as my SPI and my soy. So now I'm trying to illuminate it. And I activate.
2-4, request rejoin.
I like to launch these from
Texaco,
CCRP.
proceed to pre-contact at 10,000. Ready pre-contact. Cleared contact.
That's why. There we go. Oh. So it says I'm already 10 seconds past that point. These things fly for a predetermined time and then burst in the air. And then they light up and keep flying that way for a while.
Contact. Return pre-contact.
So it's flying out in front of me and then it
Return
pops.
pre-contact.
And then somewhere kind of under me now should be a little parachute illumination flare.
Rejoin.
If anybody was watching the 373rd stuff, you'll probably have noticed that it burst and illuminated a very large area. And while the lighting effects weren't the best before, I haven't seen them in 1.5, they do illuminate a very large space. There's a lot of candle power. All right, let's see here. A little confused about why that says ready, but we'll just keep going with it. I don't know if I'm ever going to catch this 135 here. Take all of my life. That red button I just pushed just punches everything that can be dropped off the wings, including the racks that the missiles are mounted to. You cannot punch the TGP. You cannot punch the um, electronics warfare stuff. Jammer. The jammer pod is the best way to refer to that.
Hog 2 to Texaco. Proceed to pre-contact at 10,000.
Huh. Fair enough, Oz. I'm already out this way. I think I'm just going to try and join up with this other guy.
Ready pre-contact. Return pre-contact.
So Arco's 0-1. So I'm headed pretty much right for him. Getting a lot of lag. Oh, that could be my parachute loom. Sorry if that parachute loom is causing this much lag. That sucks. Maybe it's because I'm looking into the abyss. Eastern Georgia doesn't exist. It's been leveled.
Passing waypoint 9 at 8,000. Ready pre-contact. Cleared contact.
Uh-oh, Rough Rider. That would have been bad news. So I'm getting kind of close. I'm flying straight east, and his indication shows that he's a little off to my left, but it's closing pretty fast, so should be able to see him right out there. My F10 map let me know what altitude he was at, otherwise you would have to check the briefing to know where to expect to find him. Real world, they would probably just call and ask, hey, what's your altitude? If they didn't have that information
Buddy
somehow
joined your
available.
channel.
Break away, break away, break away.
Texaco's not pleased with somebody's flying.
Yeah, forgot about it. I was like, it's 10 to 8? Oh crap. Oops.
Oops, indeed. I don't know what's up with the frame rate going on right now, but whatever. Arco, tent to refuel.
1-1. Request rejoin. Colt 1-1. Arco, proceed to pre-contact at 8,000.
So he tells you your altitude there, or his altitude there. That's not the most helpful overall, but it's a start. I get close and they see me and start to lower everything up. Hey, thank you.
Check to 360.
Okay, get stabilized here. Get this puppy. It's gonna pitch me all over the place. I really don't like the way this aircraft handles with that door. I don't know what it's changing. I need to learn. It's changing something, and I'm flying right in his wake turbulence. Sweet. Now, if only it was modeled.
Ready, pre-contact.
See if that works for him.
Cleared contact.
Yeah, there we go. Now we just ease it on in. Some little light bars up there on the front of the airplane. And that's the part that sucks about this, that I can't see them. I just have to kind of feel how the formation should feel.
Contact. You're taking fuel.
Lots of little inputs. Hopefully the lag doesn't rip me in
Pre-contact.
half. Jesus. Alright, so if you get disconnected like that, for whatever reason, you need to hit your master mode control. Oh, nope, not your master mode control button. Your nose wheel steering button, or your disconnect button, or your laze button. It's all the same thing. It's a little pinky on your HOTAS Warthog, the stick. And then when the light goes back to ready, it's ready to accept again. And when your rate of closure reaches 0, they'll put the probe the rest of the way in. Giggity. You want to be glancing back
You
and
make
forth?
it look easy.
Oh, that freaks me the fuck out. Alright, so I gotta ready that thing up again. You see the light changes. Man, lag makes this so nerve-wracking. It's going along fine, and then suddenly, rip. Jets flying through space and time. I really hope they can find some way to smooth the netcode a little bit. Oh, that's right. I gotta tell them I'm ready pre-contact. Oh, no, I don't. Nerve-wracking experience. I can't imagine doing this several times crossing a sea, trying to ferry an aircraft, and having any fun doing it. I take that back. I would love to do that, and I would love to get paid for it. I just can't imagine having enough training to be proficient at it. The amount of time you would have to spend in the simulators and the real thing. Just doing it again and again. Why is this thing behaving so weird now? I had it so nice earlier. Easy forward. There we go. A little bit back higher. It up.
Contact.
There we go.
You're taking fuel.
Thank you for your kind words, Rough Rider. I just am focused. Things are catching up slowly. I'm just trying to look at my relative motion to the jet, and then every once in a while I'm checking out to see what the boom extension is. Trying to keep it as close to center as I can, just in case something happens. I've got a little leeway. I don't want to be climbing or descending. Shouldn't really have to be too hard on the rudder. Oh boy, too much power. Ease it out. Ease it out. More power. There we go. Giggity, giggity, giggity. Back and forth. My back hurts. Sitting up way too straight trying to do this. I can disconnect at any time by hitting my disconnect switch. And I think that's about all the refueling I want to do right now. You guys get the idea. Contact the tanker, tell him what you want to do. Get stabilized, tell him you're ready, make sure your door is open, and then go fly. If for some reason one of your fuel tanks took more than another,
Return pre-contact. Abort rejoin.
if for some reason one of your tanks was more empty or full than another, you can adjust where the fuel is going with these fill disable. So you would disable the full one, or disable the internal, or whatever the case may be. I think in this case, now my wing tanks have some fuel that they didn't previously. Yeah, so I could have just disabled and filled only the internal tanks, using the wing disabled right here. I could have said, nope, I don't want fuel in either of those. Get out of there. No, I didn't take that much. I've only got 6,000 pounds. I'm basically at 50% fuel now. And that's pretty much it. How far are we from home plate? I can check that by setting my HUD as sensor of interest, using DMS down, and finding my initial position. And that tells me that I am... That can't be right. No. Yes, Kopi, it is. I just didn't feel like showing off my entire apartment, you know? I mean, it is green. It's not effective. Here, we got a little commute going here. Let's show you what happens when I try. Properties. Use chroma key. Select. Cancel. Blow this up. Properties. Use chroma key. Select. It's awful. An actual green screen would be pretty awesome, and I can understand why people use freaking bright green, because nobody's going to wear that color. Nobody's face looks like that, so. It doesn't blur all the things, and you can do it easily. Not really sure why this says my initial position is right there, but, you know, whatever. Oh. Wait a tick. Steve, thank you kindly, sir. I'm glad you're having fun. Hopefully everyone else is having fun too. I'm hoping it's informative. That's obviously the point of the Learning Sim Sunday. I hope if you couldn't join us, that you were at least able to follow along with a secondary monitor or just listening along what's going on and gleaning some information there. Still a little confused about this initial position calculation, but we'll just go with it. Don't question it. Oh man, I just want to say thanks again to the Wet Bandits guys. They've been really great to me, and Classy has been particularly almost aggressively supportive with the Learning Sim Sunday stuff, but I really appreciate that, and I appreciate their enthusiasm for learning. A lot of these guys are coming into it without prior experience, and they've been picking it up really fast, and it's pretty awesome to see. Um, hopefully we can convince some more of you who don't already do it to join the masses and come over to the dark side of gaming, the sim side, where things are hard to learn and incredibly rewarding to get right, and where teamwork is really, really, really key. Um, those of you who already do a little bit of this, I hope that you'll broaden to the more complicated stuff and maybe learn some about real flying, just because that's my passion, and that you will in turn maybe become a pilot even. It would be great to grow the general aviation community across the world, no matter where you're at. Um, yeah, I know it's expensive, but once you've done it, if it's something you enjoyed, you will be absolutely hooked. Just absolutely and utterly hooked. I'm going to turn here. And I'm going to turn the TACAN off because that's annoying. There we go. And I don't know why this frame rate's kind of sucking right now, but we'll just go with it. And I'm going to roll in here. Pull a little power. Center line. Be an asshole. And we'll make right traffic today. I'm going to use this turn to bleed off my airspeed. I could use it to bleed airspeed and translate some of that airspeed into altitude if I was low. And I'm going to turn too far because I'm not paying attention, and I'm going to turn back. And pull power, extend the brakes. And set my flaps to full. Below 200, they're going to extend. And there they go. And my gear, and silence the transit warning. That beeping when your gear is going up and down is just a thing saying, hey, we're moving, don't land on us yet. It's not safe. And I confirm 3 green flaps down, boards out, keeping my airspeed at a manageable level and rolling in on short final here. I'm very high, pulling the power, boards staying out. 150 knots. This Pappy is way the fuck off. There's no way that they're thinking that's the right approach angle. Like 10-degree approach, you gotta be shitting me. And ease it down. Oh, I ballooned. Speed, hold it off, hold it off. There we go. Bumpy, bad landing, but it'll work. Ease the nose down. Keep the back pressure on. Soft touch. There we go. And we're at 70. Easy brakes. Nose wheel steering. Now we're under 50. Get the boards in and the flaps up. And we're down. If you want to be real high speed, you configure all your safeties and you stow your TGP and make everything happy, but it's a sim and some of this isn't modeled, so it's no factor. I can land with my TGP in a weird place and the impact isn't going to freak it out in my experience to date. Not saying they won't model that at some point, but make sure there's nobody on the runway, cross the runway. Please go back to like age 3U and look both ways before entering or crossing a runway, or even a taxiway. Just give a courtesy check. That's another one of those, turn the lights on, be visible, make sure that you're looking for other people, because if they're trying to be visible and you're not looking, it doesn't help. And someone has, oh, no SPI. So I do not have a sensor point of interest. And you taxi back. If you want to shut your engines down, you taxi to wherever you feel is appropriate and stop. One thing, I don't know if they've fixed it. It seems like they have because these jets are kind of spawning all over the place, but it used to be jets had fixed spawn points, and if you happened to park where one was going to spawn and it spawned, it was just inside you, and as soon as the server lagged or you went to move, you collided. As long as you were just sitting there, that sounded really cool. let's see. Shut engines down. Move those back. Hit the battery switch. You can go through and turn off everything else after, but this is the way to not listen to everything. And that's if for whatever reason you actually want to shut it down. If you need to shut your engines down to repair but do not want to lose your
User
saved
joined your
mark
channel.
points, you can save those by going into your ground crew menu. So slash F8, F1. It's the slash above the enter key, not the one with the question mark. Slash F8, F1. F2 now is ground electric power, and you can turn it on. And when that power is on, it'll give you the same power equivalent as having your APU generator running. So all of your electronics will stay fat and happy, and the crew chief will be pissed off when they jack the aircraft up to work on it. But when they lower it back down, everything will still be there. And you can restart everything, then disconnect ground electric power, because if you try and taxi with it attached, crew chief gets pissed. And then you should be good to go. Make sure your generators are running before you disconnect it, or it was a waste and you've lost all your data. And you're basically doing a cold start at that point. There's maybe a couple things that will be saved, like your net code, but that's about it. And Rough Rider, oh, okay, you're saying for Canada. Yeah. In America, if you go to a Part 141 flight school, which just means that the school is approved to offer a specific FAA approved curriculum. So the school builds their own curricula, their lesson plans, and then submits it to the FAA, and the FAA approves it. Then you can get your pilot's license, your private pilot's license, in as little as 35 hours for fixed wing. They're pretty intense lessons. There's not a lot of joyriding built in. It's you go out and you get your palms sweaty and you fly the pants off the airplane and you come back. And if you do it all well and right the first time and follow the curriculum to the letter, then you're good. If you can use a sim to prepare for the lesson in advance, that's good. If you can use a sim to build muscle memory, that's good. Um, if you can sit on the ground and run emergency checklists in advance, that's good. Building all of those skills and muscle memory in advance is a good way to save money if you're trying to get a pilot's license, because then when you're in the air, you're basically just demonstrating proficiency and not learning. I mean, you will still learn some stuff up there, but if you go into it with a good understanding of what the lesson is going to entail, then your instructor is not your instructor. He's your proficiency monitor. And you just go through and check the block on all your lessons, and then you go take your check ride. And you pass that, you'll have, 36 and a half hours in your logbook if you just did it all right on the money. That's not very common. Um, I think the last figure that I heard for a 141 curriculum was about 55 hours for most people, but most people are not taking the time to learn stuff on their own. They show up and expect the instructor to teach them, which is not wrong. It is just not cost effective. Anyway, that's a little tangent about real flying. Really glad you could all join us today. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down because my back hurts and I'm hungry and I'm thirsty. And it's been an honor and a privilege. Thanks again to the Wet Bandits guys, to the hardcore guys that I tend to fly with more often. You've probably seen some videos with some of those guys, and at some point, if you were in the mood for something funny, especially. Yeah, thanks again to everybody for hosting, for sharing, for watching. It's been a good time. And unfortunately, I don't have a cool outro like Classy, so I'm just going to run this, and I'm going to play a little music and call it a day. Goodbye, guys.
Push it up. 4, check to 360.
Oh, Mass Effect.
Okay, heads up 4.